You can't be for this. You got to go sit.
Yeah, that's right.
I'd like to call the Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting for Monday, August 6th to order. And if you'd start with roll call, please.
Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Lamont.
Here.
Mr. Schlechter.
Here.
Mr. Helberg.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Did everybody have a chance to review the May 7th, 2018 minutes? Do you have any updates or additions?
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Lamont.
Yes.
Mr. Schlechter.
Yes.
Mr. Helberg.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not sure we have any old business to attend to, so we will move on to new business. And at this point, what we do is we swear in all the people that may testify today. So anyone that will come here to speak for or not in favor of any of the items on the agenda, if you would please stand and raise your right hand and do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. So, as we move into the first order of business, I would let the record reflect that Mr. Lamont and Mr. Helberg, yes, would be recusing themselves.
No, he's on the first one.
Oh, Miller.
He's on, just me.
Oh, he's out. Excuse me.
Jason's.
Just Tom.
Yeah, so I'm
Mr. Helberg will be,
going to go to the sidelines.
he has a conflict. So, thank you. So we have 3 variance requests. This is all for the parcel located at 2913 South Republic Boulevard, parcel number 7869207. The first request is on the north side of landscape strip from 5 feet required to 0 provided. The second is request on the south side landscape strip from 15 required to 0 provided. And the third would be request of variance on the west side landscape strip when abutting residential from 30 feet required to 20 feet provided. So those are the 3 requests. Darrell, if you'd give us the staff report, please.
The subject property consists of a 1.15 acre parcel located on the northwest corner of Republic Boulevard and Kirkland Road. A 16,200 square foot building, formerly used as a charter school, sits on the commercially zoned parcel. Commercial uses and zoning border the property to the north and east. Residential uses and zoning border the property to the west and south. The subject parcel has experienced multiple uses and renovations since the original construction of the existing structure in 1970, and the property is currently legal non-conforming. The existing building does not meet the current setback requirements of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution for a commercially zoned lot. The existing layout of the parking areas do not meet the parking setback requirements, and there currently exist no landscape strips whatsoever between the parking areas and the parcel boundaries. The applicant owns the automobile dealership abutting the subject property to the north and has recently purchased the subject parcel with the intent of transforming it into a commercial auto body and paint facility to service their customers' vehicles. Due to the more intense use of the proposed use, the Sylvania Township Zoning Department in May 2018 required the applicant to undergo project plan review to address this transformation. Through the PPR process, the proposed project was reviewed by various township and county agencies for compliance to the respective agency standards and to ensure acceptable public welfare and safety requirements. This review brought forth the required installation of landscape strips along the existing paved parcel boundaries. The applicant is seeking 3 variances to assist development of their proposed facility. Section 3001 of the zoning resolution dictates that, quote, landscape shall be required around the perimeter of a parcel located within any commercial or industrial district, end quote. The section further lists the minimum depths of the required landscape strips dependent on the side of the parcel. The applicant is seeking 2 variances from these requirements in Section 3001. The first variance request is for a reduction on the side landscape strip requirement of 5 feet. The applicant is asking for a variance of 5 feet to eliminate the landscape strip requirement on the north side of the parcel. This is the side of the parcel that abuts the applicant's automobile dealership property, and the applicant wishes to have vehicular access between the 2 parcels. There is only a 5-foot paved strip between the buildings on the subject parcel and the northern property line, and there is currently no landscape strip on the adjoining property's side along this boundary. The second request is for a variance from the front landscape strip requirement of 15 feet. This is the frontage along Kirkland Road on the south side of the parcel. The applicant is asking for a variance of 15 feet to eliminate the landscape strip requirement along this frontage. There is approximately 39 feet between the building and the front property line / public right-of-way. An approximate 4-foot wide sidewalk is along the side of the building. A 20-foot wide drive aisle runs parallel to the building and sidewalk. This leaves 15 feet remaining, which would meet the landscape requirement. Currently, this space is paved and marked for angled parking, which the applicant desires to retain for their proposed use. Approximately 106 feet of the subject parcel's western boundary abuts a residentially zoned and used property. The third request is for a variance from Section 3002 of the zoning resolution, requiring a 30-foot landscape buffer on any side of a commercial or industrial lot that abuts a residentially zoned parcel. The applicant is asking for a variance of 10 feet to reduce the landscape strip on the west side of the parcel to a 20-foot depth. The applicant maintains in their variance application that, quote, the location of the existing building does not allow for any property owner to meet the landscaping requirements under the Sylvania Township zoning resolution. Any owner seeking to use the property would need the granting of a variance, end quote. Staff takes exception to this comment. While the location of the existing building does present some challenges to a potential owner, it cannot be assumed that a variance would be required. The proposed use of the site would dictate what, if any, variances would be needed. That proposed use would also dictate how many parking spaces or drive aisles would be required, and thus possibly necessitate the need for a variance to either the landscape strips or the parking requirements. Staff recommends approval with condition on the requested variance from the minimum landscape strip requirement on the north side of the parcel at 2913 South Republic Boulevard from 5 feet required to 0 feet. That condition being that the applicant shall combine the subject lot with the lot abutting it to the north at 2931 South Republic Boulevard. Lot combinations are processed through the Lucas County Auditor's Office. Staff makes this recommendation for the following 3 reasons. Combining the 2 lots will legalize the seamless lot lines and proposed fluid use between the 2 parcels. Approval of this variance should not present a negative impact upon the public good or neighboring properties or impair the visibility or safety of the traveling public. And approval of this variance should not alter the intent of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution. Staff recommends approval on the requested variance from the front landscape strip along Kirkland Road from 15 feet required to 0 feet provided for the property at 2913 South Republic Boulevard. Staff makes this recommendation for the following 3 reasons. A practical difficulty exists in that there is only 35 feet between the public sidewalk and the private sidewalk alongside the building. Installation of the required landscape strip would leave only 20 feet, enough for a drive aisle but no parking. Approval of this variance should not present a negative impact upon the public good or neighboring properties or impair the visibility or safety of the traveling public. Approval of this variance should not alter the intent of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution. Staff recommends approval with conditions on the requested 10-foot variance from the 30-foot landscape buffer requirement for a commercial lot when abutting residentially zoned parcels to 20 feet provided for the property at 2913 South Republic Boulevard. The recommended conditions are as follows. Per the zoning resolution, an 8-foot-high privacy fence is to be erected along the abutting residential property line. The fence shall be of quality material with the finished side facing toward the residential property. The fence is to be maintained in good condition. Per the zoning resolution, evergreen trees a minimum of 4 feet in height at time of planting are to be located and permanently maintained in the landscape buffer. Quantity of trees to be determined by Board of Zoning Appeals. The storage of materials, equipment, vehicles, or any other items related to the commercial use shall not be permitted within the landscape strip. No dumpsters, sheds, or any other accessory structures may be located within the landscape strip. Staff makes this recommendation for the following reasons. The applicant installing a 20-foot deep landscape strip where there has been none through previous uses meets the intent of Section 3002 to protect abutting residential uses from the intensity of commercial uses. The approval of this variance should not present a negative impact upon the public good or neighboring properties or impair the visibility or safety of the traveling public.
Thank you, Daryl. Any questions of Daryl? Okay. Would the applicant like to step forward? So sign your name and your address and then state your name for the record, please.
I'm Jason Levine. I am here on behalf of the applicant, Jack Austin Properties. Thank you very much. You heard from Daryl what we're looking to do with this parcel. I had a couple questions myself about one or two of the recommendations, but before that, if there are any questions from Zoning Board of Appeals, I'd be happy to answer those.
What's your stance on combining the parcels?
After discussing it with my client, we're open to it. I was wondering if you had a timeline that you would like to see with that recommendation to get that accomplished by, or just do it within a reasonable amount of time. I just want to make sure I understand the request.
Right. I think that'd be up to the board. It's pretty much instantaneous and harmless application. I think they do it right there on the spot. So you just go downtown to one government center and
Sure.
you can get it taken care of right then and there.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken, it's free also.
Is there a time frame you had in mind?
There is not. I just merely wanted to understand the request so that we can go ahead and process it in due course.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
The 8-foot privacy fence that's been mentioned here.
Yes.
What type of fence would that be?
In the plan, we were just discussing having a privacy fence. We had it at 6 foot, although I take the recommendation to move it to 8 feet. We discussed it with my client, and we're okay with moving to the 8 feet. As to the type of fence, I don't have the details on that. I'm open to suggestion or recommendations from the board, of course.
Well, I would like to suggest that we've been trying to keep this fencing around these commercial properties to the same type. If you would look at Taylor's fence, Taylor Cadillac's fence, I believe that's the fence we've been more or less adjusting. That is one of the items that I would like to see you do. That way it keeps it consistent with the whole area of the fencing.
Sure.
The other thing is evergreen trees a minimum of 4 foot in height. It says the buffer quality, the quantity of the trees to be determined by the BZA. I would think a tree like that, a blue spruce or any type of evergreen, grows pretty rapidly. Is there any other suggestions other than maybe 4 foot apart or 3 foot apart? Planning along that line? I'm just throwing that out to the board here. And to you, do you have any thoughts on that? Or?
Well, our design was going to be basically two rows. There was going to be one row right along the line and then another one directly to,
Like-
that way there's two sets of trees as a buffer to the residential property.
Like staggered, Jason, or?
Looking at staggered,
Okay.
yes.
Good.
So that's kind of how they had it set up there, Al.
Yeah, I see that.
And then I noted in here, and I don't know if any other board members had this question, but Daryl noted that there in the application it said that, hey, anybody that uses this lot's going to need some variances. What led you to that conclusion?
What led to that conclusion is based on the dimensions of where the building is on the parcel. For example, on the north side, taking the 5 feet that exists from the building to the property line and doing landscaping the entire way would be not entirely impossible, but next to impossible, abutting directly up against the property. And if you wanted to keep sufficient parking for most uses at a building that side, the variance on the south side would be required as well.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this matter? Okay. Daryl, procedurally, if our recommendation is to combine the parcels, then the variance request for the north side landscape strip wouldn't be required.
True.
So, I guess my point would be if the board's decision was that a requirement would be a combination, then the vote on the north landscape strip variance would be no.
Provided they did combine the lots.
Right. So if we made 5 and 6 dependent upon a combination, would that suffice?
That would work.
Well, then we don't need to vote on the first one, right?
You'd vote on it, you would just say no. You wouldn't want to leave it hanging out there.
Or the applicant could
Or they
withdraw
could
that.
withdraw.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be the better thing to do.
We will withdraw the first variance request.
Assuming what we
Assuming-
talked about here.
sure.
Correct.
Okay.
Could you step up to the microphone and state that?
Assuming the lot combination, we're willing to withdraw the variance request for the north part of the property.
I had one more question on the fence. If, you have a second, Mr. Chairman? So I think Al was talking about the fencing that we saw. If you were open to that, 'cause one of the requirements that I was struggling with a little bit was the fence in good condition. And so, like, how do you define that? Who defines that? I think one of the things that you pointed out is I think that fence provides a longer life.
That's correct.
Over cleaner looks. I think that helps
Right.
us there as well. Would you be open to that?
Of course.
Okay.
Okay. You want to discuss or you want to
All right.
go through? All right. If you'd like to make a motion,
So when we doing both?
I want you to make a motion for this one and this one, dependent upon all of the clarifications or additions they made in his presentation.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I think also we should specify the number of trees along the western landscape.
Different than what it shows on the plan?
Do we have a...
Is this an actual? That's what I was going to ask him. Is this an
Yeah.
actual representation
Yes, it
of the
is.
number of trees?
It is.
It's fairly robust.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I would just, per plan.
I think
I would
there's
probably
32.
scale
There's
it down
30,
from
there's
there.
two. There's
There's
32
32.
trees. Yeah, that's what I got too.
It's a Sherwood Forest.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion. The variance request on the south side landscape strip from 15 feet required to 0 feet provided for the property located at 2913 South Republic Boulevard. combined with a variance request on the west side landscape strip when abutting residential from 30 feet required to 20 feet provided for the property located at 2913 South Republic Boulevard. This is with that also includes the above variance request on the north side landscape strip from 5 foot required to 0 foot provided will be withdrawn with the conditions stated inside the staff report and the combining of the two parcels. Did I miss anything?
That's great. I'll second that.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Lamont?
Yes.
Mr. Schweitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
So, Jason, so basically, you combine the parcels, and you abide by the additional things that he set forth in the staff report. And the first one, on the north side strip from 5 to 0 is, we've removed that, and then the other two are granted. You'll get a notice of that within 30 days from the office.
So the time frame obviously will matter to you because since the first one's withdrawn, so it's really the time frame's really on you. So.
So before we move on to the second item on the agenda, Mr. Lalonde will be recusing himself, and Mr. Helberg will be joining us. And Jason is joining us.
What's my line? What's my line?
So the next item on the agenda is appeal of zoning administrator's determination of violation of section 201-A, farm animals on lots less than an acre of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution for the property located at 9328 St. Angela's Way, parcel number 79-73472. Staff report.
The applicant is appealing the determination by the Sylvania Township Zoning Department of a zoning violation at the property located at 9328 St. Angela's Way in the 12 Lakes subdivision. The applicant purchased the subject property in March 2018. In late April 2018, the Sylvania Township Zoning Department received an anonymous complaint of a pig on an R1 medium-density residential zone property. The subject parcel measures just under 0.3 acres in size. The zoning compliance officer made a couple attempts at verifying the complaint, but was unable to confirm the presence of a pig at the given address. In early June, the original complainant provided photos of the pig in the rear yard of the subject address. A notice of violation was sent to the property owners on June 11, 2018. The notice cited Section 201A of the Sylvania Township Zoning Resolution, which states, quote, lots 1 acre or less, the following shall be prohibited: raising, breeding, dairying, or maintaining farm animals/livestock, such as horses, pigs, cows, sheep, goats, chickens, or other similar livestock or fowl, in any platted subdivision and pursuant to Section 711.05, 711.09, 711.10, 711.13.1 of the Ohio Revised Code. The notice gave the property owner 30 days from the date of the notice to bring the property into compliance. The zoning resolution defines a farm animal as, quote, any animal that customarily is raised for profit on farms and has the potential of causing a nuisance if not properly maintained, unquote. Livestock is defined as, quote, generally accepted outdoor farm animals, i.e. cows, goats, horses, pigs, barnyard fowl, etc., not to include cats, dogs, and other house pets, unquote. Staff upholds that a pig is an animal that customarily is raised for profit on farms and that is generally accepted outdoor farm animal. The applicant maintains that they have a disability and that the pig is an emotional support animal and that the township must make an accommodation for such. Section 2404D of the Sylvania Township Zoning Resolution states that in ruling on an appeal of a determination of a zoning violation, the Board of Zoning Appeals, quote, may, in conformity with the provisions of this resolution, reverse or affirm wholly or partly modify the order, requirement, decision, or determination appealed from, and shall make such order, requirement, decision, or determination as in its opinion ought to be made in the premises. And to that end shall have all powers of the zoning administrator from whom the appeal is taken." Unquote. Additionally, any approval of the appeal also constitutes a variance to the respective requirement of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution.
Recommendation?
Oh, sorry. Staff recommends denial of the appeal of the decision of a zoning violation at the property at 9328 St. Angela's Way for the following reasons. The subject property measures less than the minimum 1 acre required for the maintaining of one farm animal. Pigs are expressly listed as a prohibited animal on lots less than 1 acre in size. Pigs meet the definition for a farm animal and or livestock in the Sylvania Township zoning resolution. The intent of these zoning regulations is to protect residential properties in medium and high-density areas from the potential nuisance or harmful effects the maintenance of a farm animal may cause.
Thank you. Any questions for Daryl? No. Okay. The applicants here, they can step forward, sign in, state your name for the record, please.
Please do that. I do have one question. What was the actual complaint regarding? What was the context of the complaint? Just that there was a pig there? Or?
I just have on the violation screen print, received a complaint of a pet pig. The Sylvania Township zoning compliance officer is present.
Okay.
If need be, we can call on him to
Okay, I didn't know.
elaborate on that.
Context.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Steven Groff, an attorney here locally. I am representing the Crandall family and Milo the pig. Good evening again. I would just like to share with you what Milo is and isn't, and then some legal arguments as to why I would hope you consider granting a variance in this matter. Milo is a family pet and a companion animal. Milo lives inside, spends most of his time inside. He's a quiet animal. In fact, so quiet that the zoning gentleman couldn't find him on 2 visits, so he was not readily apparent to the general public. He is an engaging family pet. He's the functional equivalent of a cat or dog. And he has lived in Sylvania now a year because the Crandalls moved in this property almost a year ago, and he informs me that he's current on his taxes as well. So Milo is a well-behaved family pet who exists in a normal capacity much like a dog or a cat would. In fact, he's better behaved, frankly, than the family dogs who are prone to bark on occasion. As well, and I think I included this in the packet, he is qualified as an emotional support animal. If you don't have that documentation with you, I've brought 5 more copies just in case. But the practicality is to qualify as an emotional support animal, which is slightly less of a qualification than a service animal. There is a difference. To be qualified as an emotional support animal, first there needs to be a legitimate diagnosis by a professional that in fact some anxiety or other disorder exists. And in this case, as I included, there is a legitimate medical diagnosis by Ross Chabin, a local licensed professional, to support the fact that this animal not only is a cared and warm family pet, but also serves an important role in the Crandall house. So I would refer you back to that documentation. If you don't have it, please let me know. I'll provide it again. Can I just confirm that you do have those letters? Okay, thank you. So this family pet is just that, a pet, a well-behaved animal, and an emotional support animal, which would qualify under a number of capacities, including potentially the Americans with Disabilities Act and other such sort of legal nomenclature. But what is Milo not? Milo is not livestock, and Milo is not a farm animal. This particular brand of pig, which is a mini potbelly, is not raised as livestock. It's not raised for food. It's not raised out in the open. It doesn't require some of those pernicious things you see with giant hog farms and all of that, and doesn't create the sort of waste that one might automatically assume that a pig would. So as we see, in fact, here they talk livestock. Oh, we've taken it down. But livestock is generally, it says the word generally, considered to be this sort of animal, but generally is not all-inclusive in all being. So in this instance, Milo is generally not livestock because he is essentially a family pet. There is a world of difference between a longhorn cattle in a third of an acre property that might be the sort that could crush fences or create havoc or even injure folks. But I've actually brought some pictures which I would share. I don't know how may I ask to approach? Can I share these with the board?
Sure.
Most importantly, and the first that I would share is that Milo is a modest-sized pig at about 20 inches tall and 40 pounds. So again, he is not a 200-pound wild boar running through the neighborhood or creating potential danger to others. And as well, this does bring to bear some of the legal remedies that the township might have if, in fact, Milo was a nuisance, either by noise or waste or any other sort of imagined or perceived danger that quote-unquote livestock would bring. There certainly are remedies such as nuisance violations. If, in fact, the Crandalls didn't care for this animal, treat him appropriately, and have a modest, almost negligible impact. Even the complaint that we heard today seems to be sort of vague. There is a pig in the neighborhood. Well, dogs and other animals, certainly, most likely dogs, could certainly be have more of an impact on quality of life than a quiet pig. As well, I note in the township ordinance, in 201A it's an acre, and 201B it's 1.01 acre and above. Although a third of an acre is a far cry from a full acre. Ultimately, if one considers that if there's no rational basis to determine that at 0.85 of an acre you could not have this pig, but at 1.05 acres you could have the pig, then it would seem to me that unless there's an animal husbandry expert or someone who could argue that this pig doesn't belong on that size lot, then it's not impossible to imagine that if it's contemplated for 1.05 acres, it could be acceptable for a third of an acre, especially where there's been no historical evidence in a year, not only paying his taxes, but not creating any sort of drama or noise pollution or bad smell or any of the historical things one might associate with traditional livestock. So essentially, my request again to the board is that this pet, this family pet, who serves an important role both emotionally to the family, as any animal might, but doesn't have any sort of negative overtones that one might immediately assume. If somebody said, I have a giant heifer cow, and that cow roams the backyard and all manner of things, yes, that might be a problem. This is a sweet pig who simply is asking this board to allow him to stay home, as he has for the last year. Well, I think I've covered it. But I'm open to questions. Mr. Crandall is here. In fact, his whole family is here. And as I shared with those pictures, again, those are current as of July. So these are recent pictures of Milo.
Any questions of the applicant?
What is, it's about a year old?
How old is Milo? A year and a half.
Typically for the type of pig, what is the growth expectancy? I know some of that breed can get really big.
Yes, the potential would be for Milo to grow from 40 to 70 pounds, potentially. And again, that's why I mentioned that there would be these other potential remedies. I mean, if he became a 200-pound hog, then I could see where that might be a very different analysis than a 40-pound fella.
So, did they move in with the pig, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And have lived there. They were, I think, renting initially. So they have been in the property for a full year.
For the emotional support, what is it supporting? What's the condition that's supporting?
The diagnosis is a medical one, DSM F41.1, which is a generalized anxiety. For those of you who don't know Todd Crandall's story, it's a compelling one. Simply put, he overcame a hellacious addiction problem to then himself save lives and others by counseling and, in any event, he overcame quite a bit and continues to overcome that and then share all the lessons that he learned with the community. So if you're not familiar with Racing for Recovery, I would encourage you to take a look because it's a pretty powerful story. He's a national and international speaker, and the notes from Mr. Chabin would share that, and I know, obviously, Todd very well, that he still struggles on a daily basis. And I know anybody who knows him knows that it's not been an easy road, and that to fight addiction and feelings of other psychological feelings of worth and value and your place in the world, not always so easy. So for him, and frankly for the community, his stability has been a powerful thing. Out of his own garage, he started this business some 20 years ago. He's maintained his sobriety every day since and helped people around the world. So we would like to help him.
From the pictures, it looks like Milo resides in the basement.
Yeah, he has his own room. It's nicer than mine, apparently. But yeah, he is treated in every respect, just like the black lab that you see in the pictures as well. He spends most of his time indoors. They have a very regular schedule with him. Gets up, Todd does his workout, Milo hangs out, they have something to eat, go outside. Only Milo does his business. They come back inside, and then Milo spends most of his time indoors. That's correct.
Other questions of the applicant? Okay. Is anyone else here would like to speak on behalf of this matter? Quiet bunch.
Can I say something?
You can step up. Sign in and state your name.
Can I sign in?
Yeah, right there.
All right. My name is Todd Crandall. I am the friend and associate, I guess I should say, of Mr. Stephen Groth, who spoke very eloquently about our put my address in here while I collect myself here.
Take your time.
Our situation. He did talk about my past as a substance abuser, which has been noted in the media around town and, as Stephen said, throughout the world. That was for 13 years that I was not healthy, but for the past quarter of a century, I'm proud to say that, I've not only been fortunate enough to have survived that addiction, I've lived my life by empathy, humility, and gratitude. Actually rented an office from Tom a few years ago when I was first getting started in the world as a professional clinical counselor. And when I think of what Milo has brought, when my daughter Madison brought him home, he's enhanced all the qualities that I'm fortunate enough to have as a sober, clear-minded person. And in 2001, when I decided to to give back what was graciously given to me and form the federally approved nonprofit Racing for Recovery. It was simply intended to give back and help other people achieve the life that I've been fortunate enough to have. And again, with Milo, when he came into our life, at first I thought he was going to be a nuisance. I fought it at first. I don't want this pig, you know. But then becoming a vegan, I live strictly by a plant-based diet, and really looking at him as what he is. He's a soul. He's not a pig. He's a soul. I mean, I hang out with him. I get him up every day at 5. I hang out with him. I go run. I come back. He lays on my yoga mat with me. We hang out a little bit. And then I go into the Racing for Recovery building, and I fulfill my my obligations and my privilege to give back and help other people. And it's made me a better father, a better husband, a better person, and it's certainly made me a better, I don't even like referring to myself as a clinician, but Milo has helped me be a better person to help people have what I have. And you can see some success stories in the audience. This is tough. I think of when I was reading the complaint, there isn't even a complaint. It's saying there's a pig in somebody's yard, and when I saw that picture, you can't even tell what it is. It looks like a little dog. And the complaint doesn't describe what he's doing, why he's a nuisance, or anything. It just says, we're complaining because there's a pig in the yard. And I don't understand that, because like I said, to me, he helps me the best person that I can be. And I need him. I want him to be around our family. He's a lifeline to our family, and I can't lose him. So that's it.
Thank you.
You hadn't asked any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to, if you don't mind, Mr. Colonel, I'd like to. Have you spoken to the neighbors? Have the neighbors been supportive of the pig, or have you had any conflict with the neighbors on this?
No. When we first moved in, I talked to the father every day. We were outside because we moved in just about a year ago this time. We talked about his, where he grew up, what he does for a living. They're both pharmacists. Our son and their son played together, and we said hi to each other every day. I shoveled their driveway on Christmas Day. Everything was fine. And then when we got the complaint, I was pretty certain who it was because of how it was described to me, that who complained or what have you. And I asked him. I said, "Is there a problem with our pig to you guys?" And he said, "No." And I asked him, "Did you file a complaint?" And he said, "No." And he was standing on his side of the fence, and I was standing in my yard, and he specifically said, "Look, you have fence in yard, there's no," and he said there's no problem. So he denied even filing the complaint, because I just wanted to have a conversation with him and ask him why he filed it, but he said he never did.
One thing I guess I want to say, I'm very familiar with your background, and I don't know that this, for me, or as a board member, that this is a question of, in terms of some of the, the needs and what it brings. One thing you would ask, why are we here? And I think that's a fair question. You've got a very competent person next to you that can explain. I mean, there's a code. So when, by definition, that pig is in the code, and so it's not I feel it's kind of important because I see, it's not a pick on you situation. It's protecting, or we have a responsibility to protect, what's been put under that code, and so everyone else has to abide by what there is. So it's certainly no disrespect to you and your situation, but I think those are some of the things and some of the questions we ask. You know, when you come into the neighborhood with a pig, and yeah, it'd be easy to say, geez, if you'd only thought about an emotional support dog, none of us would be here. But, you know, you have a unique animal, and under the definition, you know, that's why we're here. So you're right. Beyond that, I'm not, you know, we don't know that there's specifics. But by definition, it's a pig, and that, you know, is not really what complies with the code. And then we just kind of take it up here. But I kind of felt it was important that you do understand that, you know, at least that part of it, that makes any sense.
I have a couple of quick questions. When you purchased the house or rented the house or when you bought the house, were you provided with anything from HOA, Homeowners Association, which had the rules and bylaws of that community?
We weren't.
You weren't?
No.
Okay. It's really not our take here to look at that, but I just wondered if in that document it says something like that.
With respect to that, I didn't know this was an ordinance I didn't know it was an issue. Had I known that, I would have approached it when we moved in, but we were unaware of it. We just assumed that like I said, we just assumed he was not causing a problem, so there wouldn't be a problem. But I didn't know the zoning issues, or I would have come forth and said, hey, we have this pig, can we work something out when we first moved in there? I was unaware of it until we got notified that it was a problem. Because I'm not trying to get around anything. Like I said, I didn't know it existed. Yeah.
So would you say from the time you were there, it was a source of emotional support? Is that a fair question? You said it sort of started as a pet. I'm just trying to, you know, I mean, you do have that expertise as a counselor, you know, so I'm amazed at how quickly I bonded with him. We lived up in a different part of Sylvania when we first got him, and I was taking care of him in the mornings right away and found myself really attached to him right from the get-go. Never thinking I would.
So, I'm sorry, I don't know if that answers this question though. Is it a source of emotional support for you now?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
And if I may, I'm from the Toledo Fair Housing Center, and we've been assisting.
you need to sign in.
Oh, I'm sorry I'm late. I thought this was starting at 6 o'clock.
Put her under oath.
You have to swear.
Again, I'm sorry. My name is Christina Rodriguez. I'm staff attorney at the Toledo Fair Housing Center.
So before you begin, can you raise your right hand and attest to the oath?
Sure.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I swear, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm here today to talk about, the fair housing aspects of this. I see this as a fair housing issue, and I think that Sylvania Township should grant his reasonable accommodation request to waive the normal zoning regulation in this instance because the animal in question is not livestock per the definition of the regulation there, but it's more akin to a medical device because it does provide emotional support for Mr. Crandall. His doctor has verified that with a letter, and so I'm just here to recommend and support his reasonable accommodation request.
So to clarify what both of you are stating is that you consider Milo a potbelly pig not to be livestock or farm animal under the definition.
Yes.
So that's your...
Yep, I would say that it's more akin to a medical device, and so the rule should be waived in this case based on the recommendation of his physician.
Questions?
I'm curious, is there that medical device, is that a definition under the...
That's the way that we often put it when we're talking to, for example, landlords who don't want assistance animals in their home. Mm-hmm. They say, I have a no pet policy. That's my right to contract. And it certainly is, but under the ADA and the Fair Housing Act, a person with a disability has a right to those accommodations. And in that case, I often say that the animal is more like a medical device, so you can't deny it, even though you usually wouldn't allow animals. In this case, it's medically necessary, medically recommended. And so that's an analogy I do often
That's your
use.
analogy. Okay, that's your analogy. I just wanted to.
I'm not sure that it's, in case law or anything, but that is an analogy that we often use at the
Thank
Fair
you.
Housing Center.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This may seem kind of strange, but what you're saying and what you're trying to tell me is the pig is not a pig. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, it is a pig, but it's not livestock or a pet. It's there to
But it's
provide.
under the definition in the zoning. Is that correct?
I think the definition of it says something about. Excuse me, I think I have the language here.
We have it.
You want to pop that up, Daryl?
We can bring it up for you.
Yeah.
So, farm animals, livestock, or property owners shall not permit on any lot.
It's on the
We have it up here on the screen for you. Farm animal and livestock defined.
Generally accepted outdoor farm animals, cows, goats, horses, pigs, etc., not to include cats, dogs, and other house pets. Again, in this instance, it's not livestock because it's not used as the definition of livestock. It's an inside animal that provides emotional support. I mean, he's not keeping it for livestock. He's not keeping it in the yard to breed and to slaughter. It's not livestock.
So based on that definition, what other animals that we have listed here as livestock or farm animals would you consider to be acceptable? as
That's not for me
PSA?
to say. That would be between a disabled person and their physician.
I'm speaking to you're an attorney with
Yes.
Fair Housing, so have you had other instances where,
Not
Like-
pigs, but cats, birds, rats.
I'm
Snakes.
saying that meet the definition of farm animal or
No.
livestock? This is,
Goats, certainly. We've had cases with goats.
okay.
No pigs?
Nope, not till now.
In the case of the goat, did the goat live inside or outside?
I think the goats were both inside and outside. So the goats did come inside, but I think they had an outdoor living area in like a barn or something.
And did it live in a location where the zoning code prohibited it, or you're just saying recognized?
Yeah, that was a case where we did have to work with a local zoning board to get the reasonable accommodation for our client.
Do you remember what township that was?
I don't offhand
Or
recall.
city? Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else like to speak on the matter?
Can I just share one follow-up thought?
Sure.
Especially to Mr. Helberg's cogent point. I just wanted to say that I don't think that this decision, were you to approve this accommodation, will cause a major run on livestock and farm animals being populated in the city of Sylvania Township. That this is a specific and isolated request, and that it is unlikely that based on your decision to allow it, people would then run out and decide again that longhorn cattle or Holsteins or other more noxious animals would be allowable. I also recognize that you may feel some imposition that every week are we going to be fighting over animals and whether there should be an accommodation. But it doesn't seem that this is likely to occur. Most people make this decision for a specific need. In this case, it was sort of fortuitous. The animal came into their life, it fit right in, and it's become a great bit of help. It does seem unlikely that there'll be a run on pet adoptions in that category. So I just want to make sure Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
I brought some information from the Fair Housing Center I'd love to make available.
Sure.
Sure. We can have there to Mr. Hayes. Did you want to speak? Step on up, sign in, and state your name for the record.
I'm John Billis. I'm the president of the 12 Lakes Homeowners Association. I've known Todd, my gosh, since he was a little kid. Matter of fact, I got him a tryout with the Gold Diggers. The chief was a friend of mine. He was the coach. I thought he was going to make it, but somehow they just didn't see that way. Over the years, I'd see Todd running every day. Now, I'm a retired Toledo cop, narcotics agent. I'm also a retired Sylvania City Councilman. For the past 6 months, I've been the new president of 12 Lakes. Prior to that, my wife and I were the treasurers. Todd rented that house for approximately about a year, Mr. Choi, and bought it last March. It was at that time the title company asked for a copy of the Homeowners Association. At that time, he would have been entitled to have that, and he was given that. Or at least they should have given it to him, because I gave it to them. One of the things that we have a conflict here is that pig was there, but nobody knew it for some time. And by his family's own admission, and by Todd's, in the paper and in the television, the daughter wanted the pig. There was no emotional stability there that Todd was being given or was asked for. We are a community back there in 12 Lakes. I've got the cheapest house there at $350,000. The other end of the lake where I live is $1 million, $1.5 million homes. These homes aren't going to continue to rise if there are farm animals on the property. It's just not going to happen. I'd be glad to give them some of the geese that we have coming in there. My goodness, there were 60 of them out there in the pond this morning. But ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand, we're not a farm community. We're not a housing center. We're a community where we have probably, I would say, 75% of the families are of mixed race and descent. Most are from foreign countries, doctors, attorneys. Their children are the greatest kids you ever want to see. Matter of fact, Sakura Gardens, the owners, they live right across the street from me. The nicest Chinese people, little kids you ever want to see. And we want to continue to keep this growing as a community. The difficulty we have is when you have a farm animal coming in and setting up shop. I understand he's an emotional support today. At the time when they got them, he wasn't an emotional support. The other day I listened to a newscast where I think it was either United or Delta. A guy wanted to bring an emotional support python onto the plane. He was denied. He was put off the plane. As far as I know, they want it. They did not allow that python to be brought on the plane. So I understand and I feel for Todd, but my goodness, we've got to have some common sense here, and we've got to understand that there are people who have invested an awful lot of money there. and I hope you consider this in your deliberations. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Go ahead.
question. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
In the homeowners association bylaws, do you have stated in there anything that prevents the pig from being on the property?
Yeah,
It's not really relevant to this case here because
see
this
if
is
I
a
can
resolution issue. But
find where
I'm
it
just
says.
curious.
I jotted that down, and oh my goodness.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to ask my next question. It's an easier one. You said you submitted this to the title company at
Oh, yeah.
closing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a process that my wife started when we took over the treasurers. There was quite a few people that had no idea, and they weren't receiving the proper information.
Can I ask you, were you, you said you were active on whether it was your current position or treasurer on the HOA at the time Mr. Crandall bought? Is that a fair statement? You were involved with the HOA when he actually closed on his home?
Oh, yeah, yes.
And at that time, he had been renting prior to that. Is it your statement that nobody was aware that there was a pig there at that time?
Nobody was aware, and it was pretty shocking when we were notified of that.
Okay.
And we understand that the township was taking a look at it, so we just sat back to see what was going to happen.
Okay.
And I decided to come out tonight. Come on, my goodness gracious.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not the zoning resolution is what
Here,
is in the
pets. Here we go. Other than 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 birds, we are very specific as to the number of animals you can have. All of which shall be sustained, suitably maintained, and housed within a residential dwelling, subject to rules and regulations adopted by the developer. No animals of any kind may be kept or maintained on any residential lot. Notwithstanding anything else contained herein, no animal of any sort may be kept, bred, or maintained for any commercial purpose, and any pet causing or creating a nuisance or unreasonable disturbance shall be subject to permanent removal and exclusion from the subdivision in accordance with such rules and regulations as may be adopted by the developer. Now, we go back then to lot 1 acre or less. The following shall be prohibited: raising, breeding, dairying, or maintaining farm animals, livestock such as horses, pigs, cows, sheep, goats, chickens, and other similar livestock, or any plotted subdivision or pursuant to section 7105, 71109, 71110, and 71113.1 of the ORC. There's been a lot of discussion about whether it's a pig or whether it's a pet, but if it walks like a pig, looks like a pig, and oinks like a pig, it's a pig. And gentlemen, I implore you to support.
Has Mr. Crandall asked for an exception to the HOA?
I'm sorry?
Has he asked for an exception to the HOA rules?
Well, my concern of giving an exception, I think that would have to be voted by everybody.
Well, not here, but so he has not asked for that?
No.
Well, I guess
So
the
if-
question is, have they notified them? Has your board notified them of any violation? I I guess I'm curious.
No, we have not notified him of anything. We've been waiting to see what happens here.
Okay.
And
So if this is ruling in the positive, then they'll still be in violation of the homeowners association rules. Is that correct?
yeah, that's correct.
Sorry.
I'm going to ask one last. Are you here? Are you here to speak on your own behalf, as opposed to the?
I'm here as the
association?
president of the homeowners association.
Okay.
That's where I get my authority to address this issue.
Did you want to speak again, Mr. Crandall, or?
I just wanted to say one thing. Mr. Billis said I did when I set up here that Madison brought him to our house. Yes, he was not an emotional support animal at that time. He became one within a week. So at first, no, I didn't bring him in the house as such. He became one immediately thereafter. That's the only clarification I wanted to make.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? Okay, so we're going to take a short recess, and we'll be back with you shortly at 6:05.
Thanks for your help today. Appreciate it.
It could be, or it could be, we could technically delay it. We'll tell you what we did. Yeah, we'll tell you what we did. Sorry, yes. Hey, Greg Long. I signed your petition, that's why I couldn't. Yeah.
Allison, my wife's really my best friends from law school. I get that. It's his sister. That's our connection.
Her sister.
That's
awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't look to see how much was right. Find it a couple months ago.
Feels much better out here. The air conditioning finally kicked in.
Well, it wouldn't be present.
Got it. Yeah.
May have made it too cold.
That's okay. I need to be woken up. Started to yawn. So.
We on? Call the hearing back to order at 6:20 p.m. So on the matter of the appeal of zoning administrator's termination violation of section 201A, what we're going to do is we're going to take a recess on this matter and reconvene Monday, September 17th at 5 o'clock here. And at that point, we will have a decision. We're going to utilize the time between now and then to research and come up with what we think is the appropriate response. So we will have a resolution at that date.
And I would like to add one comment just for the record. So Todd had alluded to having been a tenant of mine. I do want to clarify. Todd and I were absolutely in the same building. So I had owned the building. Todd took space from a tenant of mine. So he was never a direct tenant. I didn't receive any direct rent from Todd. Todd since has left the building. I've since sold the building. So we have no business relationship whatsoever. So I just wanted to clarify that. But we got along fine.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we change our regular scheduled meeting of the 10th to the 17th
Of September
of September, yes,
at 5 p.m.
at 5 p.m.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Fleischer?
Yes.
Move to adjourn?
Well, before I do that, I'm going to welcome Carlene Henderson,
Oh,
our new zoning administrator.
You?
Is this your first day on the job?
This is my first day on the job.
How we do? We do okay? Can we come back next month?
Coming back.
All right, good. We're glad to have you.
But I mean, Daryl's not going to always come with you. Just welcome.
If you wouldn't mind, actually, I would
Thank you.
can I just add one more.
Sure.
Daryl, actually, we haven't had a meeting since your departure, but thanks a lot for everything you've done for the township,
Yes.
and we really
Yeah.
appreciated working with you.
Thank you.
I'm sure Carlene will probably be much better, but that's we'll still miss you.
She's much more animated than I am.
You've evolved a lot.
Yeah, thank
It's really
you.
great to see.
Yeah, we
Really
appreciate
done
your
it.
service.
Yeah, we do. Wish you best of luck.
Thanks.
Especially in the neighborhood.
Motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Fleischer?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Stand adjourned at 6:24.
Another deal.
Daryl, are these, was this tape, audio tape, video tape?
So I'll make sure, if I...
This thing? It was what? Is there a recording of it? Like a permanent recording?
I'm teasing. I'm going to give Shaver a hard time. You better give him a break on his renewal.
I really like the way he does.
For them to have.
Everybody has to know. We think we know everything, but I don't
Oh,
know.
you're
Yeah, I know.
It's very detailed.